It still doesn't even feel real saying this, but I got invited to the London Lover Secret Session. So I know that it's been like 10 months since this happened, but I feel like ever since then I've just been so busy, and now I've got all this time on my hands and I finally finished my teaching degree. I thought this would be a good time to just sit down and talk about it properly, and I've also had time to reflect and process what happened as well. I've seen a few people say this in their videos, so I'm just going to put it out there before I start. I'm in no way bragging. I literally just want to share my experience, and if you're interested and want to listen, then that's great. And I hope you enjoy this. I've been a fan of Taylor ever since I was about 11 years old. As soon as I heard the song Teardrops on My Guitar, I was like, she is amazing. I was in absolute awe, and I immediately wanted to teach myself to play guitar, which is what I did. And I was so lucky that I actually got to tell her that and tell her how much that she inspired me. Anyway, how it all started. So for those of you that don't know, I have a Taylor Swift fan account on Twitter. It used to actually be a personal account, but I realised that I never really knew what to tweet, or I never really had anything interesting to say about myself. But then I had plenty to say about Taylor, and I realised that a lot of other people were doing the same thing and had the same passion and taste in music as me. So I'd had my account for a few years. Then on the 17th of July 2019, at about 1:45 in the morning, I got the confidential message on Twitter from Taylor Nation. For those of you that don't know, Taylor Nation are like Taylor's team and like representatives that interact with us online and keep us updated about things. But yeah, I was so excited, like I couldn't believe it. I woke up to go to the toilet and I was going to use my phone as a light, so I pressed on it and I saw the message come up on the screen, and I had to click on it about 3 times just to make sure that it was real. I was shaking so much. But anyway, I sent them my details and everything, and I didn't sleep that whole night. I ended up running into my mum's room at like 2 a.m. to tell her, as obviously close family were allowed to know. Even though the message didn't say anything about a secret session, I had a good feeling that it was, as I knew that the album would be coming out soon, and it's usually about a month before that when the invites go out. So a few days passed. Obviously I didn't tell anyone. Just had to keep it to myself, which was so hard. It just didn't feel real at all. And I was on the bus on the way to Nottingham at the time when I got a call from Taylor Nation. And the call was from a lovely member of the team called Ali. And she was like, "Hi Evie, this is Ali from Taylor Nation." And she basically explained that I was invited to this secret Taylor Swift event in just a couple of weeks' time, and she wanted to check that I could come. So obviously I was like, yes. She told me a few of the main details, but then she also said that I'd be getting an email with more information very soon. And luckily it was the week after my sister's wedding, which was so lucky because I was really worried that it would be on the same day, because that would have just been awful. So when the call ended and I got into Nottingham, I went straight to go and buy an outfit for the event, and I ended up choosing a light pink chiffon sort of top to go with the Lover theme, and I planned on wearing this with some white denim jeans and some pink sandals. I think I also booked the hotel that day as well for me and my mum, which was just around the corner from the meeting place. She agreed to drive me down there and stay with me, but because I was over 18, she wasn't actually allowed to come to the event with me, which was a shame, but also completely understandable. But yeah, I just couldn't wait for the day to come. I was literally counting down. But when it finally did, me and my mum set off on the Friday, which was the 2nd of August, at about 11 a.m. to drive down to London to the hotel. And it took us around 2 hours altogether, I think. When we got there, we checked in. We had a look around some of the shops nearby. We had some lunch too, which was lovely. And then I went back to start getting ready. At around 3:45, my mum then dropped me off at the meeting place. And I remember walking into this big room with lots of chairs all in a row, and Taylor Nation were sat near the entrance at the desk ready to check people in. So I said the password, I showed them my ID, and I got a wristband. And then I remember looking over and seeing Emma and Lisa, who are two lovely girls that I already knew from Twitter and had met up with before. And they shouted my name, and I just remember running over to them and hugging them, and we just couldn't believe that we had been invited, because obviously we had no idea who was going to be there. And I immediately felt at ease then, as it was quite daunting to walk in on my own to a room full of people. So that was really nice. But yeah, I got chatting to loads of other people too, which was lovely, and made some new friends. We were then told to put our belongings into a see-through bag, as we weren't allowed to take anything with us. We also got told to go to the toilet as well before we got on the bus. I ended up getting on bus 1, and there were 3 buses altogether. And I had one of the people from Taylor Nation sitting in front of me, who I think was the one that called me. And I remember her saying, "We're just going to the cinema, you know," and we were like, "No," and we were all like chatting to her and singing Taylor songs, and it was just the best because we all sort of knew what was about to happen, but at the same time we really did not know what to expect. And I remember people being like, "I'm going to throw up with excitement." So we were the first people to arrive at Taylor's house, and it was incredible. It felt so surreal. So the girl from Taylor Nation got off the bus to get ready to film us, and then I just ran, and everyone followed up to the front door, which is where we got searched, and we got a blue sticker put on our wristband. Once we had the sticker on, we were then taken through to the hall, and then through to the dining room, where there was a table full of every kind of pizza, mini burgers, chicken goujons, which were so good, and like M&Ms and cake pops in the shape of hearts. And there was also ice buckets on the outdoor table full of lots of different drinks. It was a really nice warm day as well, so the doors were open to the garden. And I remember there being loads of Santal 26 candles lit everywhere, and they smelt so nice, and each one of them had lover written on them as well, which was so cute. And I remember just thinking to myself, how is this even real? Like, how am I here right now? And nobody even knows apart from my mum and Jake. But anyway, we were all chatting and mingling, and then the song You Need to Calm Down came on. And we all started singing it so loudly, hoping that Taylor was somewhere upstairs, like listening to us. And we were filmed as well while all of this was going on. We were then taken through to the living room, which was just off the hall, and there was loads of cushions on the floor and sofas around the edge for the parents. I remember being somewhere in the middle. I was kind of squashed, but I also had a good view of the armchair, which I knew that Taylor would probably be sitting in. Then I remember that Tree Payne, Taylor's publicist, walked in, and she was sort of trying to find a pathway through everyone so that she could sit at the back. And then the next bit was kind of a blur to me, but I think the door on the other side of the room, which was behind the chair, opened a tiny bit, and then everyone screamed, and then it closed again. And then I just remember seeing her walk out like, "Hey guys," and I cried. I was like, this is just not happening. That can't be her. She looked amazing. She looked flawless. And she was wearing a striped pastel green shirt with white denim shorts, which was kind of weird because I was wearing white denim jeans as well. And she had a white denim jacket tied around her waist. And so she sat down in the armchair and spoke to us for a bit. And I remember her saying something about this being one of the first secret sessions and that she couldn't have chosen a better bunch of people to share the album with, which was so cute. So then she started playing the album, and she played every song apart from the ones that were already out, like You Need to Calm Down, Me and The Archer. And I was just sitting there in awe thinking, these are masterpieces, they were so good. And she told us the meaning behind each of the songs beforehand as well, which felt so magical and personal, and I just felt so lucky to be there, listening to all the little details and bits of information about her life. Once we were halfway through the album, which was just after Soon You'll Get Better, which was so emotional, we got to listen to some of the songwriting clips which are on the album, and also got to look at some of the actual albums and read the journal entries which Tree handed out. I remember Taylor also passing round some Rice Krispie cakes which were in the shape of hearts, and they were really good. They had like marshmallow in them as well. And then we just got to wander around a house and chat to her. And she walked around holding a glass of white wine. And I remember us all walking out into the garden, and she said that people could go on a trampoline if they wanted to. So then I remember a group of people jumped onto it. And then she took the time to talk to all of the parents as well and thank them, which was so lovely. And I remember using her toilet at this point too. Then we were taken back into the living room to listen to the second half of the album, which again was amazing. And after that, we were taken back through to the dining room to wait for the one-to-one meet and greets. And this is when I got to speak to Tree a little bit and hug her as well. I got another drink. We were all chatting again, and it started to get really dark at this point. I can't remember exactly what time it was, but I remember it feeling quite late, and time just seemed to be going so quick. Taylor Nation went around and were asking people how far they had travelled and whether they used public transport. So this meant that they could prioritise them and let them meet her first. So groups were called up a few at a time to go and queue up in the hallway before going to meet her in the living room where we listened to the album. And I was in the last group of people to meet her, so I think that it was around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I remember queuing in the hallway, feeling so nervous. And I'm not sure why I kept doing this, but I remember zoning out like every few minutes, like that feeling where you're sort of out of your body for a few seconds and then you come back. That's probably how I'd describe it. I'm not sure whether that was the nerves or excitement, or whether it's because my body was just drained with all the adrenaline, but it was weird. And I kept going through what I was going to say to her as well, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't mess up or say something silly. But I kept watching people go in front of me and seeing her through the crack in the door, and then it was finally my turn to go in. So the door opened, and I remember her standing there looking at me and smiling with her arms open. And I hugged her and said, "Hi, I'm Evie." And then she said, "Hi, oh, I know." And I was like, "How do you know?" And she laughed and she said, "I invited you to the secret session, didn't I?" And I was like, "Yeah." I remember then taking like a deep breath, and I started telling her about how I'd been a fan since Teardrops on My Guitar, and that I was in awe of that song ever since I heard it. And I also told her about how she inspired me to teach myself to play guitar. And I told her that I posted some covers online, and she listened to me so intently, and it was just so special and so nice. And I remember her telling her about how I used to lie on the bed with my guitar like she did in the Teardrops on My Guitar music video, and then she laughed and commented on how uncomfortable that actually was for her. So now every time I watch that video, that's what I think of. And she asked me where I had travelled from and how long it took me, so I told her about that. Then I started talking to her about the elephant bracelet which was on my wrist, which I'd brought to give it her. And it has like a matching keyring where the elephant was missing that I could keep as like a keepsake. I'll insert a picture here so you can see. I had to wear it on my wrist because we weren't allowed to take anything in or give her like letters or anything. But I asked her if it was okay if I gave her that, and she was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yes." And I explained that I loved elephants and that they share some of the same traits as her, like strength and power and wisdom. And then I was like, and they also have like the kindest nature, just like you. And she was like, "Oh, that's so sweet," and hugged me again. And then she put the bracelet on and was looking at it really closely. And I remember her saying, "And elephants never forget." And then I said, "And I will never forget this." And that was amazing because that's literally what the bracelet said as well on like the packaging. So I thought that was really weird. And then she asked if I wanted a picture. So I was like, yes. And she asked me whether I wanted to stand up or sit down, as there was a sofa in the room that we could use if we wanted to. And she also asked me which side I wanted to be on. So I said, "Can I stand on the left?" as that's just always the side I usually go for on the photo. So then we went into like a close hugging pose naturally, and I remember holding her tight and thinking, I cannot believe this is happening. And I tried to make sure that my eyes were fully open, as I didn't want to be blinking or anything in the photo. But even after the photo was taken, she let me look at it to check that I liked it, and then she was like, we can take another one if you want. But I was like, no, it's perfect, thank you. But what happened after that was a blur again, but I think we hugged and I said, thank you for inviting me. And she said that she liked my pink nails as well, and commented on how I was all to match and that they were the same colour as my top. And then the photographer opened the door and I began walking towards it to let someone else come in. And then I remember looking back and hearing her say, thank you so much for the bracelet, love you. And I remember saying, love you too. And then as I left the room, Taylor Nation handed me a bag full of merch and then asked me to head out of the front door to the bus which was waiting. This was the final bus to leave Taylor's house, and I was the second person to get on it. And on the bus we were sharing all of our stories of what happened when we met her, and we also started looking through the merch bags at what we got, and we put on all of the caps that had Taylor Swift written on the top. And I think we all just couldn't believe what had just happened. And I can't remember exactly who it was, but someone also asked Taylor Nation when we would get the photo, and I remember them just saying very soon. So I just couldn't wait to get to see it again and be able to share it with everyone. So we were taken back to the meeting place where my mum dropped me off, and I think it was around 2 a.m. at this point, and the event was supposed to finish at 11, so she had been waiting there ever since then, bless her, but she couldn't wait to hear all about it. And she even said that she tried to film me getting off the bus, but she didn't know which one I was on, so she was kind of standing there for the first two buses, and then I think she gave up by the third one. And then we got inside and had a final group picture with everyone. Then we said our goodbyes and me and Mum headed back to the hotel. But even though my body felt so tired, I struggled to sleep because I just kept going over everything that happened. But I didn't tell my mum about it before we went to bed because I wanted to talk about it properly with her in the morning and go through everything. As soon as I woke up the next day, I checked my phone and I noticed that I'd actually been sent the photo at about 3 a.m. And I just kept staring at it like, how is this even real? And I was just so happy because I actually really liked the photo and I was able to study it properly. And I showed it to my mum and sent it to a few friends and family before I decided to share it online. I feel like it shocked so many people because they just literally had no idea because I wasn't allowed to share anything about it. So yeah, I guess that's the end of my story. We headed home and I spent the next few days just going over everything that happened and trying to process it. And I just want to say that I know that I've been incredibly lucky to have had this opportunity and I'm so grateful. It was truly a dream come true as I'd wanted to meet her for so long, and it turns out that she wanted to meet me too and found me on Twitter. If you got this far, thanks so much for listening. I hope you all enjoyed it and I hope you're all staying safe and well.